Welcome to Deep Thought. Learn from the dark side. Learn from the dark side. Or, you know what? Learn from dark times. Learn from dark times. Learn from being on what society would be the wrong side of things. Because I'm going to tell you what. Sometimes to solve something, people have to go through it. If you've gone through abuse, because that's a dark side, that's a dark time. If you've gone through any type of abuse and survived it, you know what to do. You can teach others. You know, I've met plenty of women and even some men who've gone through serious abuse when they were young. But then they knew what to look for to keep others from it. And I'm going to get more into that in the next one. But you can learn from it. You know, and it could be for myriad reasons. It could be it could be simply you know what to avoid. It could be so that you can grow, your spirit can grow. You know, say you're going through some negative times after being on top of the world. I touched on that in the previous one, having money, everything, but you lose everything. You go down to zero. Indeed, I have a book called Starting from Zero, where the main character, he at least thinks he's on top of the world, but he goes down to zero, where he feels like he has nothing, but then he starts to go up to the other side. See, I'm going to tell you what, in life, the reality is the darkness is always there. You have, every empire has risen and fallen. You know, relationships go through dark periods. You know, if just during the day, the sun is up, but then night comes, it's inevitable. And like I said, in some esoteric traditions, it's like, hey, this is a part of everything. But see, people ain't going to see it then. And plus, a lot of esoteric traditions, they just see it simply as good and evil. That's another conversation. But the thing is, when you in those periods, when you on that dark side, learn from it. You know, it might not seem like it, but I'm going to tell you what, no matter who you are, stuff is going to let you see that, wait a minute, this isn't good. This isn't a good thing. This is causing pain. And then as you rise from it, well, hopefully you can rise from it. You can learn something. Maybe you learn nothing else but how to avoid it. I remember a minister told me, an elder, he said one thing you can learn from everybody. Like sometimes people might see, let me use an example. Say you have an older, homeless, just life does beat them down, drug user. They've used drugs all their life. They've gone through mental illness. Everything's happened to them. And somebody would say, well, I can't learn from there. They've failed. Well, yeah, you could say maybe they didn't reach where they wanted to reach. But what happens when one of those people say, look, I don't want you to come down this path? You know, when I was coming up, we all knew the drug users in the neighborhood. We all knew who they were. We all knew the bad guys. And sometimes you would try to start something and get in trouble, and they say, look, this ain't for you. You know, some people have stories about growing up around drug dealers, straight up thugs. And, you know, these thugs and drug dealers and just bad guys, they would see somebody. A lot of guys have taught me this. I got a story about that. I'll share that in a second. But they'll say to this person, no, you go away. Get off the street. You can't do this. No, you stay away from it. You got something better. And somebody might, you know, at the time you might feel like, yeah, I want to be a part of this. They all cool and everything. But they actually saving you. See, you can learn from your own dark times. In fact, I'm going to call it that. You can learn from your own dark times. Or you could learn from someone else's. They telling you, it's like, look, you don't need to be using it. You know, if somebody tell you, look, my life was messed up, I don't want you to go down this path, you know? Because sometimes people get into a place and they're stuck, but then something in their spirit like rises up and says, look, nah, okay, I'm already messed up. It's past everything, but I'm going to make sure I keep other people from doing this. I'm going to do what I can to help them to rise up. And sometimes you need to listen. You need to listen. No, you might, sometimes it's easy to listen to somebody who on the surface look like everything's going well for them. But what happens when the night comes? Because the night always comes. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. Listen to them. They can tell you how to survive. I'm sitting here, I could, I can tell you, I've been around some real life gangsters, some serious stuff. And they kept me away from their stuff. They kept me away. They were like, Rom, take your ass home. Seriously. They taught me enough to keep out of trouble too. They did two things. They said, okay, you need to watch this, this, and this. Stay away from that person, look out for this. But they also said, nah, we ain't involved. You don't know what we do. We keeping you away from this. And there's many a time I've been saved by somebody. Many a time in my life. Because they had been through those dark times. They had been through the dark side. I'm going to still call it the dark times. Because you got to learn from them. I've gone through periods. Where, there was a dark period in my life. And this is older. This is after a period of success. This was after a period of success. I went through a low period. That's why when somebody going through it, I don't try to put them down or anything. You help them. Or you try to give them some advice. Or at least say, look, this is what you can do. And I went through that period. And it wasn't easy because I had a family going through that period. And it was touching all of us. Other people were there. It was probably one of the toughest things in my life. But I learned from it. And even now, what I do now is to help other people. A lot of stuff people don't realize. Like when I'm talking about relationships, when I'm talking about the spiritual stuff, or even talking about money. I'm telling people stuff so they won't make the same mistakes, so they can avoid that dark period, those dark times, that dark side. That's very important to consider. When you're going through it, you got to learn from it. You got to learn the lesson. There's always a lesson. All right? So that's all for now. I'm going to finish this up tomorrow. Peace and blessings.